Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make fermented probiotic lemonade. So let's get started with running through some ingredients. We're going to start with 6 immaculate looking large lemons, then a couple fingers of ginger root, some turmeric root. I've got some garlic inside some honey here for the sugar and garlic. And then you're going to want some Greek yogurt. This here has active cultures in it, so you can see right there. Those are what we're going to multiply to help ferment this lemonade. You're going to strain the whey from that and put it into this gallon glass jar. And you also need a bowl and some cheesecloth to do the straining. To begin, I'm going to start by opening up the yogurt. Take the bowl, spread out the cheesecloth. And now use something like a spatula to put the yogurt in the bowl. I'm going to use about half this container. And now you're going to bring up the sides of the cheesecloth so you can form this little ball here. I like to use a rubber band. Go around it a few times. And the goal of this is to strain all of the liquid out of the yogurt. So I've got this hook here. I'm going to hook it up on the cabinet. Now we've got our ball of yogurt straining. Now this can take up to a day if you want, or you can just leave it for a few hours and collect the liquids at the bottom. Now the next step is to take a spoon and remove the skin from the outside of the turmeric. Just like so. I finished doing the turmeric, and it's quite a tedious process, but I like to remove the skin because I find any kinds of the outer layer of things that you add to the ferment can add a bit of a bitter taste, kind of a bitter aftertaste. And so this is pretty much crucial, at least for me when making this recipe, to make the lemonade turn out as tasty as possible. I'm going to go ahead and start with the ginger. And you notice I'm using a plastic cutting board here because the turmeric and even the ginger will stain anything that it comes in contact with. Now that I've got this ginger and turmeric peeled, I'm going to go ahead and dice it. Pretty much dice it as finely as possible. The trick here is to create as much surface area as possible. So by cutting it into tiny pieces, there's a lot of surface area for the bacteria to go ahead and do its work. As soon as I'm done processing any of these ingredients, I go ahead and put them in this mason jar. This allows for the least amount of air time, I guess you could call it, so that you don't get much contaminants going in. Chop it up, put it in, and then throw the lid right back on the jar until you're ready to add your next ingredient. The order on this doesn't really matter. You could do lemons first, ginger first, garlic and honey first, whatever floats your boat. And we've got that all sliced up, ready to go. It's important to keep this workplace sanitary, so make sure you're washing your hands in between each of the ingredients. Try not to work directly off the countertop. Don't do this outside because there's all kinds of nasties outside that can float into your jar of lemonade. You want to keep this culture as sterile as possible. And that's that. Now look, what did I tell you? Stains everything. Don't be wearing no nice clothes. In fact, wear an apron. Turmeric will get you. Now let's wash some lemons. So I recommend getting organic lemons. These are not organic, they'll work anyways, but you're not going to get any of the pesticides, whatever that might still be on the rind. Don't know if that will affect the fermentation process, but we'll find out. I'm going to go ahead and cut the ends off of these. 6 here, and then I'm going to use 4 of them to cut slices out of, and 2 of them to squish the juice out of. And here I just try to make nice, thin, even slices. Not only do these slices help again with the surface area of the bacteria being able to feed on the fruit, but just makes the jar look really cool as it's fermenting. All right, now the second half of the lemons are going in, and we can squeeze those last two. Looking good already. Go ahead and squeeze the lemons however you have the means. You can do it with your hands. I have this handy little juicer that kind of gets it all over the place. You see it gets most of the juice out there. That's all I'm looking for. You could even add these leftover peels, but I figure 4 sliced up lemons is enough for the peels. I heard from someone else's recipe that they take the seeds out because they can create a bitter taste, but it seems impossible. These lemons have so many different seeds. They're bound to get in there. All right, lid goes back on. Now for the next ingredient. Now we've got the garlic infused honey. I've had this going for about 2 months now. It's just raw garlic, put in some organic honey. And I go ahead and grab a few of the cloves, put them in there. I take the sugar that's settled to the bottom here, a big scoop of that, and I pour off some of this top liquid here. This is what happens when you put the garlic in the honey, it gets liquid. And that'll make it taste good, but also add to the natural sugar content that the lemons provide, giving the bacteria something to feast off of. Now the goal here is to feed the bacteria over a period of a couple days at room temperature. And what they'll do is they'll eat that sugar and multiply exponentially. So you get the little bit of bacteria from your whey and you expand it through the fermentation process, therefore helping you with your gut. Now it's worth noting that you don't have to use the fermented garlic. You can just use a few cloves of raw garlic. But in this case, I feel that the bacteria in here is already multiplied a little bit and adds to the diversity of the culture in the larger jar. Now you can also use regular sugar, just table sugar. You could use brown sugar, any kind of fruit sourced sugar, but honey is easy for me. It's the main sweetener that I have on hand. Makes a nice taste in the lemonade. Now the last ingredient you'll need is some pure water. So I have some reverse osmosis water here that is basically the equivalent of distilled water, has nothing in it. This ensures that you're not getting any chlorine from the tap water that might disrupt the culture. So just go ahead and grab yourself some distilled water. Well, it's been about 3 hours and I've got a good amount of clear whey down here. You can let this strain, of course, all night if you want, but I think this is enough for me. I'll go ahead and pull this down and repurpose the yogurt to eat in some other recipe. So this last part is very simple. Just gonna pour the whey right into the mixture here. Once again, doesn't matter what the order of these ingredients go in, just that they go in. And go ahead and give it a nice stir. Incorporate that honey, the whey, all the rest of the ingredients. Now you can see what I was saying about how cool it looks with those lemon slices in there. Once that is stirred all the way, no pun intended, go ahead and put on the lid. Now I'm gonna put this in a cool, dark place like the pantry for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days until I start seeing some bubbles. So it's about 4 days later. The temperature has been around 74 degrees. I think this one's taken longer than most. I could leave it an extra day or two, but since you see all those bubbles, that's what we're looking for. Means the bacteria has started to produce CO2 and the fermentation process has really started going. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down and we're gonna go remove all the solids. So the trick here is to use some cheesecloth, and I've got a big strainer here. Just gonna put this over here and dump the gallon in. Bring up the sides. not to get too much leakage so you can keep all the pulp contained. And I just go ahead and squeeze it. I try to get as much liquid out as I can. There's a lot of flavor left in this little ball here. A lot of that lemon that still kind of needs to be juiced a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do for now. Now what you can do is put this back in the jar after you clean this out if you want, and then you can go and put it in the refrigerator. I don't exactly have that much space to put this big thing in there, so I'm going to use 2 smaller jars, and that's how I'm going to store it. It's a good idea to have a funnel, but I don't have a funnel, so I'm going to make a mess. Well, this is what you do if you don't have a funnel. You make one. Just putting this cutting board in there. Hopefully that holds. I can pour in from the top. So just a quick word on how long it's going to take to ferment this again. I think I left this one for 4 days. I've done maybe 5 or 6 of these by now, and that seems to be about the time that it takes to really get a good bacteria culture thriving. And I would say averages around 73 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're going to go higher, closer to 80 degrees, just like whatever your ambient house temperature is at, it may take less, like 3 days or maybe even 2 days if it's really warm. So just keep that in mind. The temperature greatly affects how long you're going to want to let this sit in the pantry. Well, there we have it, guys. Got about a gallon of fermented lemonade. Now, I usually have around 2 to 4 ounces every morning, first thing when I wake up. And it kind of just gets me going. It's got electrolytes, vitamins, minerals, and of course, probiotic bacteria to really help you digest what you're going to eat the rest of the day. So I really just like this lemonade. It's a staple in my diet these days. It helps keep my gut in line, and I hope you guys enjoyed learning about it. For this last step, we're just going to put it in the refrigerator, and this should keep up to a couple months. So use it how you want. If you wanted to start making more lemonade using this batch, you can use just a half a cup or a full cup of this lemonade, and the bacteria in there will help start the next culture. So you can actually get away with just using 1 bit of whey for your first ferment, and then you can do multiple successive ferments from that point. Well, thanks for listening in on how to make your own fermented lemonade. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and if you want to learn more about these types of recipes and instructional videos, then go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.